Enough with the sports and enough with the gambling. It's time to try something new today. We'll be joined by our first female guest, comedian Meghan Rose, on this episode of the Scho-Zone. All right, everybody, welcome to the Scho-Zone. It's your host, Ryan Schofield, coming at you from my little DeGen here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Real quick, like, subscribe, comment, share, all that douchebag stuff a podcast host says. But without further ado, enough with the sports and the gambling, like I said. If you've seen my NFL record, it's been horrible. Games were decided by way more than 6 points this week. And if you've been following the blackjack feeds, we had a little bit of a hiccup in the last two sessions. So we're going to go on to some different things now because I have more to my life than just the sports and the gambling. And I have somebody that actually has been kind of silently motivating me. And I'm not sure if she is aware of it, but we're going to get right to it. I'm going to bring on the lovely, talented, the funny. She's a boss ass bitch. Let's just put it this way. Meghan Rose, welcome to the Scho-Zone.
Hi.
Hey, how was it going this morning?
Good. How are you?
You're just so bright and full of sunshine. Let me guess, you already got the gym out of the way and all that good stuff, ready to seize the day?
I did not go to the gym this morning. No, not
I
yet.
actually did because I felt bad of that. I know that you're always, posting that out there, and I had a little bit of a hiccup there, and I'm like, let's do this. What would Meghan do? I got a bracelet that says it.
That's funny. I'm going to the gym at 5:30 tonight. So, this evening.
You can get it done. See, I got to get things done first thing in the morning, just because I just feel like even though I do take care of myself a lot better, I just feel like that I pollute myself throughout the day. Like I drink so much coffee. That's really my big fallback now. That's I'm not worried about my heart rate beat when I'm running on a treadmill. I'm worried about it when I'm on, the seventh cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, ideally it would be good to get the gym done first thing in the morning. So I think that's definitely a good routine to get into.
I don't do the first thing in the morning. So I go to a local Planet Fitness. There's a 5 o'clock crowd. That's That's a scary crowd. You gotta really be on top of your shit. You gotta know your routines. In fact, it's almost everybody is like a robot in there. Nobody talks to each other, but no one gets in each other's ways. It's like everybody knows what they're gonna do. I make it there to 7 o'clock where there's some people that it's social hour, and there's other people that are like me that are just trying to get in and out. But we're not going to talk about that. So I think it was about a year ago, I think, or so. Let's start just saying, you're a successful business owner right now, and you've accomplished more in a short period of time in comedy than I have in the entire time I've existed on this earth. When did that start again exactly?
Comedy. So actually this month will be 2 years that I've done.
2 years. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting. I remember talking to you at work, but I just couldn't remember what job it was I was at.
Right.
All right. So 2 years, I'm not impressed anymore.
I know, right?
No.
I started 2 years ago. There was a comedy boot camp in Rochester put on by Joelle James and Yolanda Smiles. I don't know if you
I know them very well, actually. We can discuss that. I don't know them well, but I know of them. Yolanda was always one of the funniest. Whenever I was at a show and she was there, it's oh, fuck.
Yeah, she's so funny.
How am I supposed to be on the same stage as her? And then Joelle, I actually competed against in a contest. We can discuss that in a few minutes.
Oh, yeah? Oh, my God. Yeah, I can't wait to hear. I love Joelle. He's one of my best friends. Honestly, I love him so much.
Yeah, obviously, so one of the things that me and Meghan share in common, which we're not, we lean into it. We don't exactly have the most flattering, the last 10 years have been an interesting ride, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
So there was a show in Rochester, Uncle Trent hosted at Sticky Lips. It was called Who's Got Next?
Okay.
Now, I was such an out of control person at that time. I thought it was like a comedy contest, where you're supposed to make fun of the other person.
Oh, you thought it was a roast?
I thought it was one of those things or whatever like that. So I made a joke or two about Joelle, where I thought I said something about he's less masculine than Lamar Latrell from Revenge of the Nerds, which I wasn't sure
know who that is.
It's not a flattering it's not a flattering thing,
not a compliment. I see.
But anyways, yeah, I let's just say was hanging out with the rough crowd back then, and some people came to encourage me, but I may have spent a little time in the parking lots, staring at a mirror, and
Mhm.
I made a joke about that actually at one point during my set. And have you done a comedy contest before?
I have. I've done the comedy at the Carlson, their contest I've done, and then I did Syracuse Funny Bone, his Clash of the Comics. And then when I think like a year and a half ago, like after 6 months of comedy, I did this, like Uncle Trent put it on, was like this goat contest.
How did you find that experience versus regular stand-up?
I don't know. So the comedy at the Carlson is obviously intense because there's like 300 comedians, and then they always have like a really big crowd that, like, usually there's a really big crowd that comes and watches you and stuff like that. So it can be overwhelming, especially like seeing good comedians go up and then you're like, oh shoot, I'm on the same night as them. They're doing really good. But I try to just focus on myself and my set and not like really worry about what other people are doing. But like Uncle Trent's was really fun because it was like a more intimate crowd and everyone was really supportive and there was like less people. And then Clash of the Comics was super fun. That was a big crowd and there was like 16 or 17 girls. I ended up getting 4th place, which I was really excited about. But the Carlson intimidates me. So I always like don't do the best there, but I'm changing that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Face your fears.
Yeah.
What I was kind of referring to is the idea of actually being judged on the spot, though. Like that's kind of the, obviously, you get your responses from the crowd or whatever, you get your laughs, but then actually knowing that people were considering things. That's where I was kind of going. I mean, so have you placed in any of those? Or, I mean, I think I saw you made it through a few rounds of the funniest person in Rochester.
Yeah.
Which is way more than I did.
Yeah. I made it through the first round. So I made it to the semifinals. And then I ended up bombing the second round because I had so much shit going on with work. Like, I think I had to fire someone. Someone did like a no call, no show. I had like the craziest schedule, which are like all pretty much excuses because I literally like didn't practice it all that week. I don't even think I went to any open mics that week or anything like that. I was just like so focused on business that I wasn't able to leave it at the stage, you know what I mean? Or at the door of the Carlson. So I had so much in my mind. And then I went up and I did the same set that I've done a million times, because you want to bring your best like 5 or 7. And I forgot my set right in the middle of it. I literally said one joke and then I was like, oh shit, I forgot my set. And then everyone laughed and I was like, well, that's not funny. But then I like literally, so then I just like tried to open my phone and my phone was locked. So oh my God, it was like literally, I was so embarrassed after.
It's such a nerve-wracking experience where it's, I mean, I had the one time, I mean, bombing actually can be good. Bombing actually,
Right.
I was on a show the other day with this guy, Rusty, where his friends are saying you're better when you bomb than when you're actually on. And it's, you can lean into it a little bit.
Right.
I had at the Uncle Trent contest, which I'm actually now, there's a certain section of my phone that I used to just scroll past. And it's like weird that I never deleted anything out of it. Like certain things that I found embarrassing. Like there's plenty of stuff I've deleted that probably should be deleted. But I've recently started leaning into that. And one of them was when I was on that show. And what weirded me out about this is that I did the funniest person at Rochester contest.
Yeah.
And with that, the judges were in the back. So I didn't even notice them. I just played to the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I felt like I did really, really good. I'm somebody that I don't bring people to the show, though. I kind of are you someone that, has a lot of friends and family that comes, or are you just on your own out there?
I do have like a lot of friends and family, obviously, but I don't do that great of a job, like really promoting because I don't know why. I just like I said, I have a million things going on. So like I invited like my mom and a couple of my aunts. I think I had maybe like 5, 6 people there total there for me.
That's what turned me off. I mean, I had a couple friends that came to mind, and I remember, I don't know if you know Joe Condodorio.
Doesn't ring a bell.
He's, if you ever see him around, he was a Liberto guy. You know Liberto, right?
I love him, yeah.
Liberto's my favorite. He's the only guy that ever booked me for pay. That brave soul, but obviously he was a military guy, so he's a little braver than most of us. But I had the whole thing of I did the funniest person in Rochester contest, and it was actually, if I had to say, it was probably the best I've ever done. I actually did prepare for this very well. I
Yeah.
didn't bring anybody, and when I was on stage, he told me, he was like, "Look, man," he's like, "you did really good." He's like, "but you're probably not going to advance." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, and he was like, "Well," he's like, and he's kind of explained me how things worked, and that really turned me off to things. I
Yeah.
did bring, and then I did bring a bunch of people to this contest with Uncle Trent.
Yeah.
There was a weird thing of that the way it was at Sticky Lips, and did you ever perform in that room?
No, I haven't, but I'm like curious now.
Okay, so they had the judges in front of me, and then the crowd was behind, and I was mostly focused, and there was one judge in particular that I don't think really likes me at all. And I'm not going to name him.
I was gonna say who is it, but that's
okay. I'll fucking say it. It's Ralph Tedda.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's like one of Danny's like right-hand mans.
And it's funny that Danny liked me, but I can understand why Ralph wouldn't like me. I wasn't a very likable guy at that time of my life, probably.
Right.
But I could see him kind of looking and judging me, it felt like, and I couldn't hear the people laughing. So I'm actually gonna post this video at some point, or I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing okay, but then I just couldn't hear laughter at something I wanted to hear laughter at. And I froze up and I was like, oh my God, I'm bombing right now. I said this into the mic. I'm like, I'm bombing right now. And like, people are like, no, you're not. But like, once you lose it, it's like you're running uphill, like, on the slippery track. And then once you lose your footing, you can't get back up almost sometimes, or a professional can, somebody at my, and that's the next battle. But
yeah, that's when you gotta fight for it at that point. You know what I mean?
And it's, so overall though, you're obviously, this is what happens is that what really got you inspired into comedy?
So, that just goes along with like my whole, like new life, I guess you could say
new life.
Yeah. Right. So, I've always loved making people laugh. Like, that's just like my favorite thing to do in the world. There's nothing better than like seeing someone, especially that you care about, laugh because you said something funny. It's literally the best feeling in the whole entire world. Like when I make my dad laugh, I feel so accomplished. Like it's just the best feeling in the world. And I've always been like that. And then, my past, we met in Brockport when I was like out there gallivanting like a psycho.
Oh, I was who am I to judge? I was no better.
Right. I know you were there too. And then, then I ended up like basically losing everything. And I really had to just look at my life, and I got COVID, and then I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And then they were like, this was like at the point where if you went into the ICU during COVID, like there was like a really low chance of you getting out. And so they were like, listen, they were like, if you don't get better by tonight, like we're going to have to put you in the ICU and intubate you. And I really just like had a conversation with myself, and I was like, do I want to live and do I not want to live? And if I do want to live, do I want to live how I've been living, or do I actually want to live my dream life, which means doing comedy, acting, making people laugh, like being a millionaire, all this crazy stuff. And I made the decision that I wanted to live, and I got out, and then the universe is amazing. I put those goals out there, very lightly, honestly, but because I wasn't drinking and everything like that, you can converse with the universe a lot better, obviously, without all that fucking shit in your brain. And like 2 months later, something popped up on my newsfeed that Joelle and Yolanda were doing a comedy boot camp. So I went, and everyone was super nice. And then they told me about the open mics, and it's been like that ever since.
And I'm glad that you put it that way, because that's been a big thing for me too, is that it's not easy, but it is, as far as that, like, I have this whole thing, like with the summer when I started, I didn't, my little journey kind of started where I've always, I started doing the Scho-Zone way back into the day.
Yeah.
When you didn't even know what a podcast was. And not to get too ahead of myself, but they kind of built the podcast network around what was going on with me, because I was on a show with some other comedians. I'm not going to name them, definitely. But I was talking over everybody. So the person gave me my own show and put me out there. And then we got discovered by some other podcasts in the area. And then this guy had the idea of, hey, there's a bunch of these small podcasts in Rochester. Let's put them all together and we'll make a little bit of a network. And then it became ROC Podcasts. And I remember we actually did some events at, because I like the podcast forum more than I like the stand-up forum, because I do same thing. I always love to be the storyteller, the guy with the jokes, the guy that makes a crowd of people laugh. On stage is so much more difficult though than in real life, because it's like, especially at an open mic, you've got 5 minutes and you just have to be like, hey, there's nothing less funny than someone trying to be funny. And it's really hard to not try and be funny when you have 5 minutes to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, do you ever have this happen where people will say that, oh, they'll say that they could do it. I mean, they can, but they think that they can just do it that easily. And I remember when you talked to, I may have been the worst person for you to talk to when you started this, because I remember going, hey, it's going to be rough at first.
Yeah. No, I mean, I talk to plenty of people, you know what I mean? And I mean, it's all the same. I mean, sometimes it comes more naturally to other people than it does, but like I work at it, and sometimes I go up there and bomb, and sometimes I go up there and I make people laugh. So it's, obviously the days that you bomb, you're like, oh, like sometimes I'll be like, why, like, what was I thinking? Like, why do I think I can do this? You get those negative thoughts, but you just push through them. And like, I say affirmations. I'm like, no, I'm funny. I'm hilarious. I got this. And then, I go up the next day. And then a big thing too is like taking responsibility for your bombs. Like this is like for anything in life, right? So you like go and you say, hey, what could I have done better? You know what I mean? Like what didn't I do in order to be good? So like the whole thing with Comedy at the Carlson, I was feeling really low after that because I had done so good at the first one. And then the second one, I just shit. Like it was so bad. And I was like, why did I think I could do this? I sucked, da, da, da. And then I sat down and like thought about it. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't prepare. I barely like went over my set. You know what I mean? Like I was so busy doing other things. So you like just got to take responsibility for it and see what you can do differently. And then make sure you do differently the next time that you go up.
It's so nerve-wracking. I mean, I still have some old videos. I mean, I have my first set from Boulder Comedy somewhere around.
Boulder's still going on.
It'll never go away, but I don't, it's the scene changed over the years. That's the reason I kind of stay out of comedy a little bit now, because I actually was getting right back into it right before COVID happened. I had Liberto had me at a show at Bathtub Billy's.
Yeah.
All I had under my belt was I did an open mic at 58 Main in Brockport, where I watched that video, and it's starting off, it's such a tough watch, because there's a first minute where like nothing's happening. And I'm like, you can see me, I'm about to fall apart. And then I just went for the fucking kill shot with one of my very offensive jokes. And I got the laughter. And then you literally just see like an awakening come out of me. And then it's like, let's go. Like, and then I'm like, I'm in control of the room. It's an empowering feeling, but if you're not getting that, it's rough. There's nothing worse than telling a joke and hearing nothing, because
you're like cue the laughter, and then it's just like crickets, and you're like, oh, okay.
Especially when sometimes I have this horrible tendency where I kind of smile a little bit and almost looks like I'm laughing to kind of let you know that I just made the punchline, because I talk really fast, so I know that kind of messes up with people. But I will say that you had the cheat code of that. Now imagine everything you just said right there. Now imagine if you're still drinking and drugging, and how fucking horrible, how much worse it feels when you suck. I mean, not where you bomb, I don't like, that can send you into a different spiral.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I don't like use those for depressing things. You know what I mean? Like you can't be doing that. Like you can't suppress things and then drink about it, because it just makes it 10 times worse.
But it does. I mean, that's been the story of everything, of that, like the teaching for that one. It's like, this is kind of my new creative, this is why I kind of started this, doing it more again, is that, I can't, honestly, going to open mics, hats off to you. I have such a difficult experience with them. Like I really, you get some people, I'm like, I got to watch the same set over again. And also too, because I have a hard time being around drunk people now, or anybody that really, and you get a lot of that there. And I just kind of noticed too, is that I'm mostly coming from work, where I work in a fairly professional setting, and I just know, or it's just, at least in my head, when I walk in, they're like, who's this fucking douchebag?
I mean, I'm sure that's probably all in your head, to be honest. 100%. Where are you located now? Aren't you in like Albany or something?
Yeah, I'm back in my hometown. I'm in outside of Albany here. I'm from Troy originally, but cool. I did one comedy show here, and I might have to try it again, but I did make a really bad impression of things. I did what I normally did. I had a couple drinks before I went on stage, and I just remember like it was the MC was not very good. I don't know who he was, but he did not. He just kind of bailed on like usually, you know, you gotta even if you are bombing, the MC's gotta get to some things going a little bit. And they gave me the option of like, where do you want to go? Do you want to go first or do you want to go towards the end? I'm like, I just want to get it out of the way.
Yeah, so you're first.
And I remember kind of going, okay, I have some different styles of jokes that I've done. And I remember asking a guy that I know that's a comedian here. I was like, what do you think I should do? Should I do new stuff or should I do the stuff that I know is good? And he was like, a little bit of both. Probably start off with the stuff you're comfortable with. I had an opening joke that I do, and it went very, very like it was something I was just getting laughter from. I got a gasp. And then I doubled down on it with an even worse joke.
There you go.
And then I got like more like I'm like looking at faces of like, and I just remember being like, I actually took the mic and I said, yeah, you know what? You guys fucking suck. And I put it back in and I walked off stage and I've never been on stage since.
Oh, no.
So maybe I have to overcome. And what I do is that anybody that when they find out I've done this or anybody that says, hey, I'm thinking about doing this.
Yeah.
I say, listen, I will go with you. Okay. I will go. If you're going to do this, I will go with you as your buddy because I tell them I do not want to do it, but I will do it for you. And I will request to go on before you because if I suck, it'll make your life so much easier seeing that I can, handle it. And that was actually when I did that paying show that Liberto did. I was a little nervous for that show. Yeah. And I hate saying it, but the guy in front of me did so poorly that it was just like, okay, wait a second. Now, like, this is, it can't get any worse kind of thing. And I was able to relax into that. And there was a bachelorette party in front of me. So that was I ended up not even doing my set as much as crowd work with them,
Oh,
so
good. Yeah.
Which was more of not the stand-up form, but doing that.
Yeah.
So do you mix it in with the crowd or you just kind of stick to your script?
A little bit. I used to never talk to the crowd because it scared the shit out of me. Like even though like I love conversing with people and I love having like, you know what I mean? I like talking to people and stuff. It was just hard for me to transfer that over to the stage. I just get like really scared. But now that I'm like 2 years in, I've been trying to do it a little bit more. And then I have some jokes that like allow for crowd work. And then it's fun to riff a little bit. And then you can go back to that joke, So I've been doing a little bit.
Well, and again, it sounds like, you're working at it. And that was always the thing that I had that was probably is that, I compare being a comedian to like golfing. You get your black cat. So this episode has officially got some bad luck going to it.
No,
I'm kidding. Cats are great. I wish I could own animals, but I'm too selfish. I mean, I'm selfish, but I'm selfless in the sense I would give them a horrible life.
Oh,
but I work too much and I'm a fly by the seat of my pants guy. I mean, I spent all summer traveling around to different baseball stadiums.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The animals will, and then I was seeing you go, and like I love the idea. I was watching you go to New York, and like, isn't it exciting? Just dropping off in a city that you've never, you've been to New York, I'm sure, but like, just being somewhere different where, you know who you are, but nobody else knows who you are, and you can control the narrative of who you become to them.
I love it so much. I think that's the reason why I love New York City so much is because there are so many people. I've met everybody that I don't want to say everybody that I want to meet, but I've met just so many amazing people in Rochester, and I'm so thankful for that. And I love Rochester. It's my hometown, you know what I mean? But like when you go to New York City or you go to other cities, like you said, there's just so many new people. And one of my favorite things to do is meet new people. So like I literally meet so many new people when I'm in New York. And lately I've just been going to New York, but I definitely want to start going to like other like comedy cities, and just like start checking all those places out too.
Well, because what's nice about it too is that it's you get a new audience, it's fresh, and you can kind of like, for me, when I'm in a different city, it's like I remember even back in my drinking days, if I was at a bar, people would be convinced I was the funniest person that ever walked the earth. And I'm like, no. This is like 12 years of shit I've been working on that. Like, it comes off organically. Like I didn't shoehorn it in there, but I know what I'm doing right now.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but like, you say the same jokes over and over again. Sometimes for me, it's hard for me to get excited about those jokes.
I just was talking about that with another comedian when I was doing that, and I see sometimes the same people, and I guarantee you there's some comics out there that are still telling the exact ones. I actually would know their jokes better than them, or sometimes it'd be like, you didn't do it as well as you did this time.
Or something. Yeah.
you're, like, oh, the tagline thing, or that's where now your writing process, are you independent on that, or how do you go about creating your material?
So a lot of the stuff that I do is like true to my life. You know what I mean? Like I have like jokes about work, and then I have jokes about back when I like was a crazy person and I tried to sell drugs and it didn't work out because I ended up doing them all. You
Oh,
know,
it's,
and yeah, and I
supporting a
just
habit.
yeah, right. So I just have those, but okay, the Rochester comedy scene is so amazing right now, at least the people that I hang out with.
Yeah,
Because
you're
we're
around with some
very,
veterans. You're the people that you mentioned too.
yeah,
Yolanda's been, I was doing stand up in like the beginning or like the 2010, 2012. She's
yeah,
been killing it since then. And she's somebody that I would see do different jokes all the time. That's what I
yeah,
always
oh
was
yeah,
impressed with her.
she's phenomenal. I mean, every time I see her, I get so fucking inspired because she's got the funniest fucking jokes in the whole entire world. I swear to God, she's so funny. And Joel, I don't even want to talk about that because he makes me cry every time he gets on stage. He's just phenomenal. But besides them, because they are veterans, they're up here, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, and the rest of the comedy is like elevating too, but I don't see them as at open mics, you know what I mean? Because they practice elsewhere, but I'm talking about the comedy scene, like that I hang out with at open mics and everything. They're very supportive. So like, they're not like, they don't look at, we don't look at each other as competition. Like it's collaboration over competition. So like we have writing groups on Sundays that one of the comedians, Rachel Days, hosts. I don't ever go to it because I'm always like doing a million things for work, but she's phenomenal and they get a lot done. And I've seen the comedians go there and flourish. Like they all have like escalated or like, elevated so much just from going to like open mics and going to that writing group. And then I have my friends like Good News and Izzy, Kai, and Grace, and Rachel and all them. But like we got like group text going like, hey, is this funny? Or like, I want to do a joke about this, and they're happy to throw out tags or like ways that you can do it and stuff like that. So it really is like, it's like I come up with the premises and then, I throw them out there and then I get feedback and then I redo it. I also have a comedy mentor that lives in New York City that helps me a lot too. And it's been really helpful. So I really have a really good support group, and it kind of is a team effort, even though you're the only person standing on that stage. Like it's really nice to have that support. And I think that's like one of my favorite things about comedy, honestly, is the people.
So the thing that killed me, I had a couple different ways I used to go about my process. One thing
Yeah.
I used to do is when I worked at the gas station, when I pumped gas for 10 years of my life at the quick fill in
Nice.
Brockport there, I used to just, if I had an idea, I would scribble down a little bit of a premise of it on like a sheet of paper, and then I would just throw them in a shoebox. And then a week later, I would open them up, the shoebox, and I would look through and I'd be like, what the fuck was this? What the fuck was this? Ooh, that was good, and kind of did that. I think the funny thing was that I had the whole thing where I used to do comedy in the town a lot. They had a couple open mics that Liberto was running, and I would kind of, I didn't, then I fell off and stopped. I had the little fall. I mean, honestly, the whole thing was that I couldn't be sober enough to drive out to Rochester and drive back. That was kind of, my thing, or I was like, oh, I'm going to stop out at the bar before I go out there. And then it was and plus, not to mention, I didn't realize this at the time, but I had such bad performance anxiety. Like, believe it or not, I probably was in the bathroom dry heaving, if not throwing up, more than half the time before I went on stage.
Even for open mic?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was a weird, and I didn't understand that about myself because I just, was just like, I was from that old school mentality about you're being a fucking bitch, man up and do this. But like, I didn't understand that I had some other things going on, which is probably why I was drinking and drugging so much.
Right. I get nervous too. Open mics, sometimes I'll like get really nervous. It depends on like what the crowd's like, you know what I mean? But my like nervous thing is like I have to pee. So like I could pee like 10 times, especially at shows. I can pee 10 times before I'm about to go up and not like drink anything for the first like the next hour before I go on stage. And like 2 seconds before I'm about to go on, I have to pee so bad. I literally have to like cross my legs and be like, and all I say for like 2 minutes before I go up is I have to pee. So, but then once I get up there and like you get that first laugh, you know, it goes away.
It's an adrenaline rush, and it's a fight or flight thing. Am I going to fucking run out the fucking building, or am I going to go out there and stand up and take it? You know, and that's
Yeah.
you know, it's and going through, and that's one of the things that's nice about it's if somebody hasn't had true adversity in life, I just don't respect them almost.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like if somebody, and I'm not saying that it's, you know, like a bad thing that somebody's had like things easy, but the struggles are what makes you that much better. You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And I just kind of feel like that, like I kind of look at it's like, this is what's the worst that can happen. I've literally, I'm sure that you have been, I've been in situations where my life is compromised. Probably there could have very easily gone a different road, or where, you know, we could be having this through pane glass right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if you look at it like that in the grand scheme of things, then it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But like at that moment, it's still just as scary. Like I've been more scared to like go up on stage, and I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Like I'm literally like inflicting pain upon myself, like, you know, like mental or emotional pain upon myself. Like then if I was like in the hood with my homegirl 3 years ago, like buying drugs, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, I'm cool, you know, this is fine, you know.
It's weird that you feel comfortable in the most uncomfortable situations, but for different reasons.
Like, it's fine, you know what I mean? But like, you know, comedy is like, you know, it's crazy.
Well, that's why I like putting this stuff out there, because I mean, now that we have this, you know, self media and stuff where we have more access to people. I mean, I've heard Adam Sandler say the exact same thing when he was struggling in New York City coming along. He'd be like, you know, what am I doing with myself? Why am I, you know, like, you know, doing this? And then it's like, well, you know, if you keep with it, you know, not saying we're all going to be Adam Sandler, but he's just a regular guy that just happened to, you know, like,
literally,
there's nothing that makes any of them that much better than us, other than they just fucking are willing to fucking.
Yeah, they persevered and they were consistent and they worked on their craft. You know what I mean? Like they worked at it. And that's what makes anybody successful. Like we all are basically made up of the same cells and everything like that. Yeah, we have different paths that mold our brains. But like if you get over, you know, the negative, like they're called paradigms. But if you get over those negative paradigms and replace them with new, like uplifting paradigms, you could literally do anything you want. So the only difference between us and like, you know, famous people or successful people is that, well, I don't even want to say us because I am successful and I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So I want to say,
us being here on this conversation is success, considered all things considered.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, like the difference between people who fail and people who succeed is that the people who fail don't think that they can do it. So they either gave up or they just, you know, they didn't do it or whatever. And the people who succeed, they knew without a doubt that they were going to succeed. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's the only difference between, you know, people that fail and succeed. So anybody could really do anything.
And that's the whole thing I want this to be, as a motivating. Again, me and Megan, if you saw us a couple of years ago, you would not be thinking that anything would be going good in our lives right now. And that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on, is that I want to be able to, I asked a different girl to be on my podcast, and I kind of feel like that she was like a little uncomfortable with it because of, you know, I just had done sports and gambling and stuff. So yeah. I appreciate you kind of being, you know, the guinea pig and the welcoming, you know, person to be like, hey, no, he's, you know, this can be a fun time. You know, you can have a good conversation. Sure. And I draw, like, I'm, some people say, like, I have a friend of mine that listens to this, he'll be listening later, and he finds me to be very prophetic, but it's like, I find these sources of, you know, inspiration from the most random of sources. And you really just hit on a moment there with the idea of failure. There's a movie called Tin Cup with Kevin Costner, where he's an out of control guy. He reminds me of me as a golfer. And I just used to identify with that movie so much. Yeah. And when someone was criticizing something he did, he just said, greatness courts failure.
Right.
You know, you have to be, you have to be willing to do that. But one of the things I thought was funny, do you get this one where if you say something funny in your regular life, people are like, oh, you should use that in your act?
Yeah, dude. I have like my dad and my mom, they always are trying to tell me like what I should do for stand-up. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll think about it. You know what I mean?
It's the worst. It's like, hey, you know what? Why don't you do that?
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, you know, like I get that, because that was a funny, and like I probably have a whole comedy special of things that probably I forgot through blackouts, because I was the guy. Barber's Grill was one of the greatest fucking sources of comedy ever. It was really, it was like an open mic booze fest amongst all of us, just ripping each, you know, because that's the thing too that I had a problem with in the comedy scene, is that I use breaking balls as a term of endearment. I
Yeah.
recognize that some people, maybe that's not a thing that they enjoy too much, but it's like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't make fun of you if I didn't like you. You know, you wouldn't be worth my creative energy to make a funny joke. Like,
Yeah. Right. They should be
uh,
honored.
I mean, well, I don't want to say honored, but it's like, I've always said is that anybody can. There's a joke I'm not going to repeat that people say about me and my family in this part of town or in this area. And
Yeah.
it's horribly, horribly offensive. And it's really insulting to my entire family, but it's so fucking funny that I can't get upset about it. And it's like, if it doesn't have a good punchline, then it's just mean. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing is
Right.
that some people like they think that they're funny, but it's like, no, you're just being an asshole. Like,
Right.
and that's one of the things I do is I do like to make fun of others. But when I would do my act, I would, I was mostly self-deprecating. So that when I wanted to make a joke at somebody else's expense, it's not that I'm like, if I just stood up there and just made jokes about everybody, I would be an asshole.
Right.
And then I would have people that be like, oh, you shouldn't say that about yourself. It's like, trust me, if you knew how highly I thought about myself, you would fucking not, you would not have said that. Like,
Right. No, I know. I try to say, I do like a little bit of deprecating?
yeah.
I do like maybe a little bit of that, but I try to like get away from that. And I don't ever really talk shit about or like joke about other people either, just because I am such like a nice person that I can't get over that. Like, I can't do it even just for fun, because people always tell me, they're like, you can do that. Like, who cares? Everyone knows it's just jokes, but I'm like, I personally don't feel comfortable like making fun of other people unless you're a piece of shit and you piss me off. Then I'll go and unload on you, especially like if I'm at open mic and then someone says something dumb to me, like, just okay. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh no, I get it. And I mean, that was the thing. I wouldn't make fun of on stage. I mean, that was always a faux pas. You don't make a joke about anybody else's actor or anything like that. I mean, I would never do anything of that nature.
Yeah.
But there was somebody in the crowd that was being unruly or whatever. I didn't, necessarily have an issue with telling them that.
Yeah.
Because also it was kind of, being the scrappy little Irish guy that I was, it's like, well, if you have a problem with this, there's a parking lot. Like, but
Right.
that never came to that one exactly.
Yeah.
But no, it's been I'm glad to hear that. And also your business I see is taken off very well. I mean, like it's nice that you have this thing to feed the beast, because that's the other thing too, is that comedy is not an easy experience to profit off of, or it's not, if you're looking at it as a primary source of income, that's scarier than what I do when I gamble.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it definitely is a gamble in general if you're trying to do it full time. I believe that the universe rewards people that risk, their stuff for that. However, I am like, as much as I am obsessed with comedy and everything, like, that's how much I am obsessed with my business too. So like, I'm really thankful that I do have that income that allows me to travel to other places so that I can do comedy.
And be your own boss. You can take your own. Like I said, you're a boss ass bitch.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, hey, you guys got to watch this for me. I got shit going on.
Yeah, I have a really great business partner too. She travels to New York City with me frequently as well, but she really has been like amazing. She's also a comedian, Grace Turner. I actually met her through comedy, and then she like said that she wanted to be my director of residential. And then she just killed it. And I was like, hey, I want you to be my business partner. So then that just happened in like May of this year. And it's just because of her being by my side, we've been able to grow even more so than, if it was just me running it. Because if it was just me running it, I probably would go insane, to be honest, because it's a lot.
And that's the big thing too, is you got to surround yourself with the right people. And I've had this, I'm sure that you have even had, like, I have people that I don't have any resentment towards, as far as I don't like them as a person, but
yeah,
I can't deal with their negativity they bring to the table. Like, where it's like there's so many times, and I had to get out of my own head about this, because I would have an idea and then I would say, here's all the reasons it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, well, how about we just go why it would work, or what's the worst that could happen if it doesn't work? That thing. And, putting myself out here. I mean, I have, this content creating forum, this is even different. At least you're connected with people on a personal level.
Yeah.
I'm just some abstract guy where, like, I finally had to, do the gamble on myself, where I, was just doing this with a shitty microphone and a shitty camera and all this stuff. And then I started taking money I won gambling and started investing it into this podcast here, where it's like, now the bet is on myself, something I have control over, not some not a football game, which again, I still do that. But I mean, it's it is what it is. I mean, that's my one evil vice, that coffee and nicotine, but you know.
Yeah. This thing lives in my hand. I'm telling you, it's very bad. I plan on quitting it someday, but probably not anytime soon.
This is how bad it was for me. For me to get in my employer, I could get a discount on my health insurance by if I tested positive or negative for nicotine. That was the one thing. Like, it's amazing for me. Like, I just posted that video of me chugging the bottle of syrup from 2019.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious because some people looked at it like it was yesterday. And I'm like, have you seen me recently? That guy was like 40, 50 pounds heavier than this guy right here and looked like he was out of control. Not saying I'm not a little bit out of control and still a little on the manic side a little bit.
Right.
But I was like, the idea that I could do that. But I quit nicotine for 10 days. And, like you would think that if you made it that far, you would just continue it to go. No, I was the person that had a bag of pouches and a fucking vape waiting for me in my car.
Yeah.
So that when I got done with that, and I'm like, and that was kind of the thing with, like I used to do this. And right now I'm hoping to keep this role going is that obviously I was with alcohol was really, I don't even like when I told people exactly how much, like people who thought I had a drinking problem didn't even know how much I was drinking. I was like, I'm showing up drunk. And then you guys think I'm drinking too much. So like, and it was kind of scary of that I could hide. I don't want to say hide it, but like that I was able to get away with it and be functioning, but I was not clearly not high functioning because I probably was capable of so much more.
Right. Right.
And, that's kind of been our thing is that we held ourselves back for a while. And I mean, hey, like we know, like we're adding some years onto our life that we can make up for lost time, hopefully now with our better decisions.
Yeah. My thing with drinking is that like especially like when you met me, like there was no way in hell people could tell if I was like, or people could tell like if I was drinking, even if I had one or two, like it goes like people can tell in 2 seconds because I get this gloss over my eyes, all this crazy stuff. So I could never hide it. I mean, I tried for years to hide it. You know what I mean? Like, but it was impossible. Like there was no way. So it was just like, something that, I really needed to have done. And like the COVID really set that off was because when I got COVID and I was so unhealthy, I was like 270 pounds or some shit like that. Like I was huge.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's one of those that I don't remember you being like that. And then I
wasn't not in Brockport because I was doing a lot of staring at a mirror in Brockport. And then when I got heavy, I was doing that too, but it was weird because like, I think what had happened was maybe I was doing a little bit less after Brockport because I was spending like 3 days in my bed, just eating like a lot of fast food. And I was just really unhappy with my life in general. But like in Brockport, I was like at my high school weight. I was like the smallest that I'd ever been since high school. I was like 175. And then after I left Brockport, and I went to Gates, and then there was like about 2 or 3 years that I had gained all that weight. I had gained almost like 100 pounds. Like, Jesus. Yeah, like literally almost 100 pounds. I was huge. And then since then I've lost like about 80 or something like that.
Congratulations. Good for you. And I mean, I will say that, I mean, I'm glad you sent me the headshot that you did because I'm hoping to use that as a thumbnail because I think it's going to attract some clicks,
Hopefully.
Oh yeah. And I like that. There's the confidence in there. That's the whole thing you got going too. Like I've even had that a little bit myself where as I was traveling around the country here and there, like I remember there was this one incident in the Bronx I went to a Yankees game and I swear this woman that was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, and I'm in a store and she turns around and she's looking right at me and I'm looking behind me. I'm like, is there a guy behind me or something? And it's like, oh wait, you're looking. But when I had that self-doubt, then she was so turned off and she just walked away. Like I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
I probably would have done the same thing though. I'm like, who are you looking at? You know what I mean?
That's the thing is that we have to check. There's a whole thing that a part of this is that we're so down on ourselves that we didn't really like, if we can't, like, I've always even said this, because I've had some incidents with some people where I'm like, how can I really love you if you don't love yourself? And at the time, I don't think we really, it's tough to say that we did because we wouldn't have done those things. And it's like, I'm sure right now, like, if you have maybe an off week, you're probably like, oh shit, got to get it together here. Like,
for sure. Yeah.
Be wearing belly shirts if we're looking like this kind of thing, and you get after it where it's like before I would just be like, well, I'm just going to wear a hoodie, I guess. Like,
Yeah. No, definitely. Like, and confidence is something that I've definitely had to build. Because I've really never been confident my whole entire life. Like, even since I was like little, I've just never had the confidence. I'm not really sure why. I mean, I was well loved. Like, my parents loved me, and I have a big family, and they've all like always been really supportive and stuff. But it was just like my own shit that I was just never confident. And I think like a lot of time, like I drank a lot because it made me feel confident. You know what I mean? But even though, which is crazy because you drink and you feel confident, but I'm over here like slurring words and saying stupid shit to guys and like, whatever. And it's like the least confident type of behavior that anyone can have. You know what I mean? You wake up the next day and you're like, oh shit, I said this to this person, or oh shit, I looked like that last night. My eyes were rolling in the back of my head. Like, how is that? Like, how does that show confidence?
I just remember this one. I remember this one particular time I was out in Rochester and had the thing where I caught the eyes from across the bar. I went over to walk to her and I was probably about 10 feet away and she could smell the fucking booze on me and just was like, nope, never mind, go away. And I was just like, and I was like, what's wrong? Oh, something's what's fuck her. She's a bitch, And I'm just like, no. It's like, like it's like and like that's the hard thing of that. I mean, I can't. It's tough for me to be around people with alcohol now because I mean, honestly, just even the smell of it just kind of triggers this like little memory of this. Like I'm like, I get anxiety of seeing a drunk person that's doing something that they probably wouldn't want to do. Because I'm just like, oh god, that was me for like fucking 10 years, like like every day probably, and like And I mean, honestly, I mean, I think I was even a jerk to you at one point, but like, thank you for forgiving me,
I mean, if you were, I mean, I never like really either paid attention or I don't.
No, we had it out one time, and that's actually even scary that you don't remember.
Yeah, no, for real. I think I remember one time, like in front of barbers or something, you were like annoying me, but I'm sure I was being just as annoying. So it's really not a big deal.
Well, this has been a nice little forgiveness session, we'll say on that one. It's glad to see that we're doing what we're doing, and it's just one day, like just a bell clicked off, and that's like kind of right now. Like I am now. I used to do the thing to keep people off my sense a little bit, so to speak, but also to kind of continue to bullshit myself. I would be able to take off a month here and there, and that would be people that go, "Oh yeah, you're not that bad. You can take off. You can you can just say you can quit for a month or something." And it was like always one of those weird things where I would be like, yeah, like a defined period of time. Like I would say I could quit for a year if you told me it was going to be a year. And it would be, but then the first day, like I would do like a sober October, and then it's like November 1st, I'm just drinking all the alcohol I would have drank in all of October.
Right.
And it's like, so one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
I had one time that I remember sitting in Barbers. Don't know who the bartender was, which I'm going to have some bartenders on here at some point in time to talk about what it was like to be my bartender. Cause I can't imagine it was a comfortable experience. Like, I was usually pretty good about, like, I know that one of them, we'll call him Rumpelvins, used to just say, hey, are you sure you need another? Or he would kind of be like, hey, do you know your tab is already at this high? And I'd be like, I know what you're doing. I'll leave.
Well, at least you took the hint.
I would, but then I would go fucking walk down to the gas station and grab a fucking sixer and then crush it in my house. So it wasn't like I was really doing too much better.
I would have been like, fuck you, just serve me my drink. Like, bitch, I didn't ask.
No, but I would get like that moment of shame kind of where it's like, like this is somebody who doesn't want to say that to me. But if I'm like, that must mean I'm unbearable to be around kind of deal.
No, that's good though. I mean, that you got the hint. So.
And it's like, like there's the thing of that, like I'm sure like, I honestly, there was one time that I was there though, and someone said, would you like another one? Or was it like, how about one more or something? And like the idea of one more is I'm like, I was sitting there and I'm like, one day I'm going to have my last drink. And I was like, am I going to be aware that was my last drink? Am I going to be consciously saying this is my last beer and I'm done? Is it going to be that, I find myself in a hospital and they're like, listen, if you do this, you're gonna, like I was all this. The thought of that one, I went on a fucking weekend long bender. I didn't go to sleep. Like I just fucking drank, like that's how fucking rattled I was by it. Right. And for me, it got to a point of that I got, I was really going through it to the point that friends and family were getting a little bit worried where it was. And I remember them saying like, hey, listen, can we bring you somewhere? And I was like, no, I got to do this myself. And like, honestly, I ended up checking myself into a detox. And even to do that, because I lived down the road from an urgent care, which really I shouldn't have even been walking in traffic like I was. Right. I remember I was on my way to go there, and I even had the fucking anxiety of that where I stopped at a gas station before there and grabbed 2 more fucking deuces and then went back to, I like finally got through with it, but I was like, I have to do this myself. And that's the whole thing, is that people, you can't pressure somebody into doing it. You have to just make them understand that they should do it. You know, you can't force those into there. I went to AA, and honestly, my thing that I do now is I try not to do anything because I never want to have to end up back there. Not to judge any of that, but it was just such a,
it's depressing there. It's so depressing. Everyone there is like super depressing, at least in my opinion. No offense to anybody who goes to AA.
No. It's just that where it kills me is that they make it seem like it's the only thing that works.
Right. And I've been working with a mentor, shout out to Maggie. And she's got this program. It's a whole alternative type situation with alcohol. It's like, think to drink different or never again. So she really does, like, she teaches like that, like moderation is possible. I know that that's like a huge like red flag for a lot of people that have for centuries thought differently, but it is possible. You know what I mean? And I've actually dabbled in moderation myself, and, you know, and I'm still very successful. But the way that, like, if I drink at all, like the way that I do it is completely different than when I like used to drink. You know what I mean? And not a lot of people do, like, not a lot of people know this. So this is kind of an exclusive on your podcast. But you know, she's helped me. I've been working with her for over a year, and it's been amazing. But like, instead of focusing on the lack of alcohol, you have to focus on your goals. And the thing that I've learned about alcohol is that it clouds my brain, so I can't listen to the universe in order to be as successful as I want. So I'm going to be a millionaire. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to be a millionaire. But in order for me to do that, I need to be able to listen to the universe, because I need to know what next steps I need to take in order to achieve that goal. And if your brain is clouded, you know what I mean, then you don't know if the ideas are coming from a place of like insecurity or, you know, being fucked up or whatever, towards a place of like inspiration from the universe. So that's like how I look at it. And like I said, you know, not a lot of people know that, but cat's out of the bag.
I mean, hey, you know, I mean, here's the thing. If you can't tell somebody about it, then it's probably not good. And that's kind of the way I always looked at something, is that if you are doing something and you have to be careful who you tell it to, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to be transparent. You know what I mean? All my friends and family, like, that I talk to, like, they all know, they all, like, you know, support me and everything. I mean, they see me, like, I'm so successful and I'm still going after my goals, and I'm busy like 24/7, you know what I mean? So I'm out there living like my best sober, curious life. And I'm really, really thankful for that.
Because I have this, and like, this is always, and this would probably be, you know what, you may have motivated me to actually, because I said that you do motivate me. I'm kind of silently keeping tabs on you. Okay, well, fucking, she's killing me right now in the game, so I got to fucking catch up. You know,
you can do it. You can do anything you put your mind to.
This boss ass bitch is running circles around my head right now. I can't fucking let her get ahead of me. You know, but I'm
already there. No, I'm just
I laugh when I go to a bar, because let's face it, if you're judging a book by its cover, I look like a guy who fucking drinks a lot. Like, it's just really like, I can sense the look of disappointment when I've walked into bars around this country when I go on my little road trips, because I usually kind of want to get a feel for the air, you know, what kind of things happen. And I want to see how people live in these cities, because cities are different everywhere you go, the way that life is. I mean, Rochester has its own kind of, you know, vibe to it. Went around to some different places, but I always notice that there's this look of disappointments when I'm like, yeah, what do you got on the NA menu? And like, I even noticed that like the bartender, like, they're always confused. Like, do I have anything? Or I can always tell they're like, how long has that beer been here or whatever like that. And it's like, even when they open it, it's like they're fucking like opening, they're like trying to, you know, clip the wires to defuse a bomb. Like, they're worried something bad's going to happen when they open it. And then they, you know, give it to me, where some of these are probably so old, there probably is trace amounts of alcohol in them. But, you know, like I had one at the casino the other day. I'm like, all right, it's a Heineken Zero, but this one tastes like a fucking Heineken to me. And I've actually had the terrible experience of, you know, doing that. Like, I remember I was at a barbecue joint, and it was a summer day, and it's like, I still like love the taste of beer. Like, that's the thing. Anyone that says I didn't drink for the taste, I drink for the way it felt, I did for both. I actually still, like, I miss the feeling of a shot of whiskey, but I also know that I had somebody at a family party ask me, like, what would happen if you took a shot of that one? I'm like, I'd feel it hit my chest. I'd feel it get warm. And then 5 minutes later, I'd be grabbing the bottle from you. It's
right.
I know myself well enough that I just can't even gamble with that one.
And I love that, because you have to be self-aware. And if that's the case, then you got to do what's best for you. And abstinence is definitely like a really good way to go for a lot of people. And I totally support that 110%. As far as like the NA beers, you know how like popular and like, honestly, being like sober is trending right now. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the generation, but like, I don't know, younger than us and everything. Like there's even like a sober or like whatever bar in Rochester that just
I heard,
yeah. And like, it's because like people are finding that alcohol isn't really helping anybody. You know what I mean? And they like this sober, curious lifestyle, or this just being straight up sober. And so like, if you go to a bar and you feel like they're thinking that, then those people just need to get with the times, because a lot of people don't drink anymore.
Well,
but
it's like,
you know, they still want to go out.
People say it loosens them up, and I'm like, that's sad to me that you need to have that to be able to feel comfortable and confident. And like, I always looked at it as that, like, and this is where I feel, you know, there's almost a little bit of not regrets, but like a little anxiety get when I'm doing all of these things that I've wanted to do. Like I've wanted to see every Major League Baseball park for the longest time. And I would maybe be able to tackle up one every so often, because I'm like, well, I need to have this much money to go bar hopping, and you know, I need to be able to do all this stuff. And I'm like,
the calculations are crazy.
I'm planning out all this stuff, and like I would look at it as that, like, it's, you know, people like one of my best friends in the world right now, like people will look at his life. He's a guy in St. Louis. People will look at his life right now, and they're, you know, and I even had this myself, that, oh, it must be nice. You know, he was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. Then you talk to him and you realize, no, when people are in their 20s fucking around and doing all this stuff, I was working my balls off to be able to be in this position. And it's like, I never was willing to put forth that those short-term gains, I guess, because it's like, okay, like if I have $100 in my pocket, that's not going to help me out in the long run. But if I go to the bar, I can be somebody for the night. And having that. So now it's like, when I started doing this, like people think that I must be, I mean, I do okay at my job, but it's like, once I quit drinking, it's like, I did the math on this one. I gave myself like a fucking, probably about a $20,000 a year raise.
That's amazing.
Like, you know, something, which is crazy to think when you're like, wait, you would spend how much? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've been making decent money for a little while, and it's like, I didn't have anything to show for it. So I just had, I mean, I have these collection of wild stories that I wouldn't change for anything. And I have some funny videos here and there, but ultimately it's like, God, I could be on Easy Street right now. But now it's the whole, well, I got a new lease. Let's now make it that you can be on Easy Streets, you know?
Yeah, so exactly. And you just keep building every day. You just keep building from the day before. And then next thing you know, like, you're where you want to be. But growth is never ending, you know? So you get on a new level, you achieve your goals, you get on a new level, and then it's time to set new goals and level up again. Like it literally is just never ending. And it's something that people, if you want to be successful, you have to understand that and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, you know, because every time you get on a new level, it's going to be uncomfortable. And, but it's amazing, because the results, I mean, they're just out of this world.
No. And I mean, I know. And like, it's the weird thing of that, you know, if your friends, you know, some people don't understand at first. And I mean, I even still have people that they don't get it necessarily. And it's just like, hey, like, you'll figure it out. Or like, you know, if it's like, if you don't want to hang out with me because of that, then maybe we weren't good friends ever, you know, kind of thing. It's like, maybe we were just acquaintances, you know, that happened to be in the same setting.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, because I had like 2 years or like a year and a half or so that I just was straight up sober before I ever decided to bring moderation into the picture. And I worked on myself a lot, and I work on myself every day. But one of the things that I did, it was get rid of everybody that I was hanging out with. Like, cause I was hanging out with, I mean, I feel like you've always had a solid group of friends. Like I always felt like your friends in Brockport, at least that I met, they seemed like pretty solid. They were fun, but they seemed like they were like a close knit group. Like, you know, they weren't, you know, crazy, but like after Brockport, when I was in Brockport, after Brockport, I was just hanging out with, you know, and no offense to these people, cause you know, they're amazing in themselves, but just me hanging out with them, just, it wasn't good for me. So one of the things that I did was completely stop hanging out with everybody from my old life. And then, then it was lonely. It was lonely for a long time. You know what I mean? I was always hanging out at home doing nothing. And then I found comedy, and I just found like my forever friends. I'm like obsessed with them, and I love them so much.
And that was the thing too, that which just made it worse, is that I almost would say that it wasn't to their own knowledge, but they were almost enablers to me, because I would validate myself by going, I'm friends with good people. They still like me. So I can't be too bad off. But also, I'm also hiding from them who I actually really am. Like, I mean, again, the idea that I might be able to tell a few people about what's going on, but then some people would, when you get the judgment from them of like, wait, you did what? And you're like, all right, well, I'm not going to tell that guy anything anymore, kind of thing.
Right.
And I mean, I guess I'd say I do see the moderation thing, because I do have that with the gambling thing. Like, I struggle with this one, is that I have this acumen and this ability, because I'm very mathematically inclined and I understand the way things there is. I do the guy on the left shoulder and the guy on the right shoulder, which I was just on a podcast with a guy in Atlanta yesterday. He said I had it wrong. I always believe the guy on the left shoulder is the good guy and the guy on the right's the bad guy. He told me it's the other way around. Maybe they do things different in that part of the country. I don't know, but I have to do the thing of that, like, okay, the guy on the left shoulder, he tells you what's right. The guy on the right shoulder, when he starts in control, he does everything he can to muffle out that guy on the left. And, having that drink for me would be like, hey, fuck that guy on the left. It's like the Jay and Silent Bob fucking sketch, like with when have you seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
I have, but not like in like over 10 years.
So, I mean, that's one of the things I have, is that, I mean, I remember, like, I was drinking one time at Stoneyard, and like, I was talking with this guy who worked as a fucking scientist, and he was just like looking at me. He's like, you're like the fucking sharpest mind I've ever met. He's like, I work with fucking people that are like at this high level of intellect. And I'm like, well, and I was even talking to a girl from my high school recently. She was like, we could never figure out, like, you were one of the smartest guys in the class, but you did the dumbest shit. Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm an asshole. Like, that's just kind of my shtick.
Yeah. Do you mind if I get this real quick, just in case it's work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Take this, look at this. So, Megan's I'll put you, want me to mute you?
No, it's okay. It was just Google. I'm waiting to hear about, contracts. So I was just making sure that wasn't them.
But, and I even have this right now where I'm at my job, and this is something that it's flattering to me, and it almost makes me, it puts me on like I have to make this guy feel right about himself. I have a new boss, and she's just getting to know me. And and this is the thing. I started at a new job. Again, I like putting myself out of my comfort zone. I went to a different industry, different people, and I really was just like a subdued version of myself for a while, and slowly but surely coming out. Like, I would tell people, I'm like, hey, like, I remember, like, I can say and to do this, and people, I remember this one girl said to me, I was like saying something like, I can say some pretty mean and nasty things to people if they're mean and nasty to me. And this girl said to me, she was like, she's the sweetest lady I know. And she was like, I can't have a hard time picturing you ever saying something mean to somebody. And I was like, if you think that, it's because I would never say something mean to you.
Oh, cute.
And it's kind of what the whole thing I go on, is that I'm a big, you get what you give person. And I try to mirror what's on the other side of me. Like, I'm still willing to get down and dirty if you want to go that road. But I actually get more enraged when I deal with that, because it's like, I don't want to be an asshole. Don't make me be an asshole. And the fact that you made me go to this place, I'm not going to hold back, kind of thing.
Yeah. I definitely like have struggled with like responding to people or like reacting to people. Especially being a boss, like dealing with some of the employees that I deal with, like I've had people just, that I've had to deal with, and like the old me would be like, I will fight you. Like, don't fuck with me. You know what I mean? Like, you're messing with me. You're messing with my business. You're messing with my money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't do that. But like, something that I've learned is that like, you obviously I cannot act like that. I'm the face of my company, and I wouldn't want to, because it takes too much energy out of me. Like being mean to people literally takes so much energy, and then I feel bad after and everything like that. So like, one of the things that I've learned was to just like walk away from those situations and to just not talk to them. And then shout out to my business partner again, Grace, because when I have an employee that I either have to fire or, that's just rubbing me the wrong way, or I don't like their responses, that's when I pass it off to Grace, and I'm like, hey, listen, I can't deal with this person right now. Like, I'm doing a million things, which she's doing a million things too, but she always picks up where I lack, and vice versa. So we work really well together. But, there's been plenty of times where like, it hasn't ended great between me and one of my employees, and we have to get the keys back or whatever. And I don't want to go see them because I'm so very upset about it. So I just, I let Grace know, and she just takes over. she gets the key, you know what I mean? And I'm very thankful for that because, you know, I don't like to lose my cool like that, you know, anymore.
And that's the healthiest thing is knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses of that sense.
Absolutely.
And, you know, in terms of the firing people, you know, as I go on, people fire themselves. You just have to be the one that tells them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have this whole thing of that, you know, I mean, obviously I've worked in sales for a while and that's a very, very cutthroat thing. And I'm kind of a little bit in the pushover in the sense of that, you know, people are fucking cutthroat. They do shady stuff. And like, I don't make a big fuss about it because I just laugh at them. I'm like, that's what that person has to do. I'm like, I just feel that much better about myself that I, you know, like, I'm like, I'll just find another way to make the money that I just lost. Or like where we're going to fucking get in riffs over fucking $20 or something like, you know, like fucking like, it's like when people's egos, and I have a fucking ego about myself, but it's like, I don't put it to that one, you know, like I put that into different areas, which is just always a thing. But, you know, yeah. So right now I'm on the 15th, you know, like I haven't smoked pot in 2 weeks because that was the other thing too, is that I went from one thing to the other. Like when I first got sober, I was completely sober. That lasted about 8 weeks. And this is something I would tell to everybody is if you made plans while you were still doing what you were doing, you can't follow through with them. So like I made plans to go to St. Louis when I was drinking. And then I got the whole thing where I, you know, had gotten sober or whatever like that. And I went to St. Louis and worst place for me to go. The fucking place is a billboard for Budweiser, you know? And like, and my buddy is just kind of was like the whole, like, hey man, I'm not going to judge if you do this. And I looked at this going, oh, only he's going to know about this. And that's like the whole thing of that. Oh, everyone else won't even fucking know the difference or whatever like that, which was that was the guy on the right talking to me or like that. What ended up happening? I went on a fucking massive fucking bender. I was almost never allowed back fucking to this person's. He had to have a very, very difficult conversation with his wife about what the hell is this guy doing in my house? Like, you know, kind of thing. And hearing that just fucking killed me. And I will tell you, this was probably one of the worst experiences. I ended up after the whole weekend mess, and I could tell that they had enough with me. I went to the airport early, and what did I do? I sat in the bar, and I remember there was this bartender, Zena. I forget how she spelled it, but a very, very, you know, probably from the hood girl in St. Louis or whatever. And I was like, hey, can I get the tallest Bud Light you have? And give me a big fat glass of Jameson. She poured me. It was one of those things where like there was more than one drink in there. So she just poured me the rest of it. Yeah. People used to assume that meant I was going to sip that. I just went, goop, and started pounding the beer. And like, she was impressed by it. She found it entertaining. Next thing I know, I have a bunch of drinks in me. I don't even know how that ended. I know that I ordered food. My tab was only like $40. So she definitely was doing this for her own entertainment kind of deal. But I missed my flight. I fucking passed out in the airport and woke up. Had to go to the gates where they were like, yeah, your flight left an hour ago. Thank God to the people at Delta fucking for booking me on a flight. But they were like, yeah, you're not going to get out of here. And I think it was 15 hours. And at this point,
my God,
I had lost my wallets in St. Louis. So I had to go through special privileges through TSA to even be able to get into the airports. I figured that if I was to walk out and come try to go back in, there was going to be an issue there. Yeah. So I had to sit there and dry out from a fucking horrible bender in a fucking airport. And then, of course, to compound this, I had on my flights back to Albany, I'm sitting next to, again, beautiful girls. And I'm just like, oh, this is lovely. I'm a girl that I would love to try and chat and woo over. I'm like, she's just sitting there in disgust because she can smell the whiskey seeping out of my pores or whatever like that.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
It just was such a horrible, horrible experience. So I kind of was like, okay, this is, you know, I had a lot of stuff to resolve. And when you go as far as I did, it wasn't an easy process. And I kind of think happy to anybody that does it on their first try. But I want to say that on the spectrum of things, you probably were a little bit on the lower end, where I was probably a little bit more on the higher end of things. So I started transferring from one to the other. I mean, I always smoked pot, but I started to the point where it was getting a little bit out of control, where I started getting what I would call a weed over, and where I'm like, I didn't even get high today, but I still feel like I'm high from last night kind of deal. Yeah. So having this going on, I just realized, you know what? I'm going to do a October where I just do a reset. That's the way I looked at it. I was just going to do a reset. Yeah. I'm now 2 weeks into this, and I now have video evidence of myself recording where I may or may not have been stoned, or versus now where I'm just as clear as be focused can be. And I'm like,
I love it.
I don't even know if I can go back, because again, what's going to happen November 1st? I'm going to get high one day. It's going to fucking feel like it did the first time. And then on November 2nd, I'll be back to the same old thing. So I have to, you know, kind of use that. And doing this podcast is a form of accountability now, because you would be able to tell.
Weed could get expensive too.
Oh,
You know what I
I mean,
mean?
well, in New York State, it does. See, I live near one of the beautiful things about living here is I'm right near the Massachusetts border.
Yeah.
It's a little short time. New York State sucks for a lot of reasons. Their cannabis was absolutely awful. I mean, that was one of the things I was kind of doing in my travels around the country. California weed was overrated, I would say. Massachusetts had some great stuff, but the fact that I will drive an hour and 15 minutes because I can go, I get more bang for buck and I get the product I go, I'm like, that's a sign of an issue. That's
Yeah,
probably,
right.
and so now again, like all these things where the money I don't spend on drinking, the money I don't do on that, that's what's able to pay for this fucking new lovely lifestyle that I have. It's like,
Yeah, that's
like
awesome.
I gave myself a raise.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
So this has been a wonderful conversation. And I mean, we can
Yeah.
probably, hammer on forever and maybe we'll do this again. I mean, honestly, have you ever thought about doing your own podcast?
I did. I actually like started one, like me and my one friend Rachel, like maybe did like 1 or 2 episodes, but we never released it and we never really went further with it, mainly because I'm like so busy and stuff like that. But I think that doing a podcast would be like so fun. I would definitely love to do one.
Because this is what I would say is where this helped me out is that's when I would get done because I would center my day around going to a baseball game, and that's usually
Right.
a nighttime activity where I get into. I mean, it's such a rush to me. Like I remember seeing you getting off the train one time in New York City. It's like I love the idea. I live right next to the airport in Albany here,
Yeah.
so it's just I wake up at 3. I get 6 o'clock flights out. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning. Again, I was eating a fucking 100 milligrams of edibles before I get on the flight, but
Yeah.
but I would go through that and I would get into a city I'd never been. I have a loose idea of where I want to go. And sometimes I would go the places you didn't want to go just
Yeah.
because I have a tendency, like I call it urban exploring, where it's
Yeah.
like, rather than hiking where I might get bit by a rattlesnake, let's go to that place where you might get accosted by somebody you don't want to. And in Chicago, I had a very, very dicey incident that thankfully I walked away from unscathed.
Yeah.
But I would get this euphoria of like, I would get to the hotel, I'd work out in the gym, I'd walk around the city for like 10, 15 miles. I'd go to a fucking nice restaurant, get a bite to eat. And then I'd find myself sitting at the ball game, just like with this, like, I'm exhausted, but in a pleasant way. It's
I
not that
love
I've
it.
been partied out feeling. And I think that, where you could find some ideas or times to do this is that in the hotel room, because,
Yeah.
after the actor doing, like when you do your comedy show there, that's when, and especially comedy is a very, very scary environment for people with the problems, is what do people do after the show? Now, maybe things are different than they were before, but I find going into the hotel and talking about what a wonderful experience I had made for a good outlet for, something to do with my time to feel good about myself versus, and that's the way I would put this is that I used to drink because I thought it made me feel better. And the expression that I use now is that I thought it made me feel better because I didn't know what it was like to feel good.
Right. Right. Exactly. I like that. That's a really good expression. I like it.
And, that's kind of my thing now is that like this channel, I have to actually, I'm so self-critical of the fucking like editing things. Like I hate like spoken word. Like that's why I didn't like stand up and writing jokes is that like I'm editing my words as I'm writing them here in this forum. I just got to say it and run with it.
Yeah.
So I need to come up with the actual tagline where I'm kind of thinking of something that, hey, I've done a lot of stupid shits, but I'm here to talk about it and I'm not trying to glorify it. I'm trying to use this as an example, like when I've had some friends, even in my personal life now that they may have been going through some struggles, all I say is like, hey, you're kind of running the playbook I used to run.
Right.
And, look how that turned out, like not saying that but like just as a cautionary tale, but also there's so many times that people like, again, at the AA thing, people have this like, doom and gloom attitude towards things. And it's kind of like, you can still, I'm not telling people not to have their fun because ultimately nobody's going to learn from my mistakes. They're going to learn from their own, but I want them to, when they realize that maybe the time has come is going, you know what, that guy was, maybe I should reach out to that. And I offer anybody, with the email that I have on here, I never even put up our ticker, did I? Oh shit. I didn't even fucking I had this banner on here that I meant to have where we'll get this up here. I meant to have your shows plugged and everything on here. This is it's amateur hour. What can I say?
That's okay. That's the best thing about life is that you learn from the experiences. Like one of the things, like I've been doing a lot of new things, you know what I mean? Like I did a fashion show the other day. I've never walked in a fashion show before in my life. And one of the main things I learned was bring stockings, you know what I mean? Because my legs were fucking everywhere. And I was just like, I was like, oh, but instead of feeling down on myself about not having the stockings or like, or like, seeing my fucking cellulite all over the fucking internet, I was like, you know what? I learned a lesson. Now, next time I go to a fashion show, I'm going to make sure to bring stockings because you never know what they're going to dress you in and stuff. So it's literally all about learning. And the best way to learn is to do, because if you try, you can do all the research you want before you go and do something, but like you're never going to be fully prepared until you actually know, until you actually do the thing, because that's the best way to learn. At least that's how I feel.
And you know, it's that sort of thing is that it's good to have a plan, but you don't have to stick to it. You can always be making alterations. You know, it's kind of like, you know, it's like being a chef. You know, it's every now and again you can tweak that recipe a little bit, make it better.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, this has been absolutely lovely. So again, I got you now scrolling down here because I know you made the joke, what, you're not going to plug my shows, where I was like, I wasn't sure. So, well, I got you in here. You got, you know, you're on Instagram, Meghan Rose Co.
Yep.
Again, I mean, that's your cleaning business. So if you're in the Rochester area and you want your shit cleaned up and you want to fucking support a great cause, I guess I would say, because, you know, I want to see Meghan make it big places, because then I can say, hey, she was my first female guest I ever had, you know, and I can say that, you know, you've done this all yourself, but the fact that I actually, you know, I talked with you when you first started doing this, where again, I like to think of that, you know, like too many people, I don't like the false buildup of things. Like I'm kind of the necessary evil of that. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you all the things that you gotta, like, no one's going to want to tell you the things that are going to suck about this. Like be honest with yourself. Like if you look back at your first time ever doing stand-up, you probably cringe at it. You're like, oh my God, I do this, but it's rewarding. You're like, I do it so much better now.
I'm not gonna lie, when I first started stand-up, like I actually like had this, I didn't have anything, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I went to this comedy boot camp and I had literally just thought of like this little rhyme before I got there, because I was like, just in case, like whatever. So I had this little rhyme and everyone was like, oh wow, like they were like, have you like done stand-up before? Like this is like whatever, this is wild and stuff. So I really kind of hit the ground running, I'm not even gonna lie. And like
really?
just because because the support was there too, you know, and everyone was like really supportive and they liked my energy and I liked their energy, so it really kept me going. But you know, well, there are times that, like I said, I'm like, I'll do a joke and it just like, or I'll have a show and it just doesn't go how I want. And then, you know, I have to like rethink things, but I definitely don't, I mean, I plan on keeping on going until probably I die. So.
Well, hopefully that's not anytime soon. And again,
I'm gonna be like
now that I'm thinking about that, though, my advice wasn't good, because I was speaking from my experiences as a drunk person. Where again, I watched my first video; it was like an 8-minute long set, and it probably could have been 2.5 minutes.
Right?
Like, you know, because I just didn't tighten it up a little bit, and then I honestly didn't have the experience of, I feel like, truly bombing. And my first bombing experience was very, very epic at the it was back when it was Merchant Street Smokehouse.
Okay.
They let me go on and they didn't tell anybody that they were having comedy there that night.
Oh,
the two comedians that I brought with me that night, they did not, they were my openers. They were very intimidated by the audience. They didn't do anything to win the room over.
Yeah.
So then I went up there and then I said, well, you know, how do we get some people's attention? Let's say some horrible shits. And I said something, and long story short, a woman threw a dart at me. Which if it did hit me, I would be blind right now.
Oh my God.
So then afterwards, she went to apologize to me, but she was drunk and her reasoning for what she did was not good. And I let her have it a little bit. And the next thing I know, one of the bouncers was like, hey man, you might want to walk out the back. No, he was like, you might want to walk out the back door because the guys that she is with are going to kick your fucking ass.
Oh,
and so I like that. It was I had that experience, but you know, live and learn is what it is. And that's what this whole experience has been all about. So Meghan, we got you're on Meghan Rose Co. on Instagram. Yeah. We got Meghan Rose on Facebook. And then I see that we've got, I mean, I know that you're going to be down in, you didn't say exactly where in Harlem on the 19th, which is this weekend. Where, you know?
Yeah, I'm performing at Comedy in Harlem. It's a comedy club.
I wasn't sure. I see, that's the thing. I couldn't tell with the way it was written. I was like, I thought you just said I'm performing comedy at Harlem.
No,
so I was I'm like, well, Harlem's kind of, there's probably a couple places there. And then you've got something, well, locally for Rochester, you've got two that I put up there. You're going to be at, I saw the Bad Bar ending. Yeah. And again, when I read that, I'm like, oh, she's going to be at Bad Bar and she's the closing act. That's the way I read that at first. But then when I made this little thing here, I went to search these other ones. And then that's going to be the 22nd. And you're going to be at 9 Maidens Brewery or I took the wrong date there again, learning the mistakes here. So
Yep. And then on the 26th, 26th, which is my birthday, I'm actually booked for a comedy show in Connecticut. So I'm going to New York City, and then my business partner and fellow comedian Grace Turner and I are going to Connecticut. We got put on a show with Smokey Suarez. I don't know if you know who that is, but
Nubby sounds badass. Or she.
He is. Oh yeah, he's the best. So we're gonna be doing a show with him in Connecticut, and we're just so fucking excited.
Well, I can't wait to see you go to the moon. I can't wait to, maybe, one of these days could be, your the throwaway opening act at one of your shows. Maybe I'll try to find a way to work this into my hectic schedule, or maybe I'll start seeking out the open mics and get the redemption. And you're just nothing but an inspiration to me, and keep up the good work. So I'm gonna, wrap this up now because I gotta get going to my actual job that pays me for the time being. And that was the whole thing of that. They said at my one job, I think I didn't actually get to this, but this new woman there said that, I think Ryan's got a lot of potential here. And the guy said, he's like, we'll just enjoy Ryan while I have him. I think he's going to go on to do some bigger things.
Awesome.
And now because they said that, now I can't make a jerk out of him. I've got to go ahead and do it. So once we get to the point that right now this is all a labor of love. I'm sinking money into it, but as a gambler, I got to get the returns on it some way. So I didn't subscribe to this streaming platform. I didn't pay for the fucking blue check mark on Twitter and all this dumb little things that seem so like, I remember being, afraid of doing that because I'm like, oh, people are going to think this. And then I'm like, why the fuck do I care what these people think? If they don't understand it, then, I don't want to say fuck them, but, let them see where I'm at in a little while. So it's been a pleasure having you. I'll have this up sometime. I got to go to work. When I get home, maybe I'll chop some things up. There's going to be some AI that'll edit some clips out for me here. I'll send them over to you. And when I have this posted, you can find this. I do have my things posting to most major podcast platforms. So I'll get you all hooked up with that. I'm in the middle of building my Facebook page and all that stuff. Cool. So we'll let's keep doing this thing together, Megan, and maybe we'll have you on again, or maybe one day you're gonna have me on something. So it's been a pleasure. It's been a wonderful start to my day.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it was really nice talking to you. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really excited for both of our journeys.
Yep, now I gotta, this is what's nice now. My mother's in Italy, so as I'm gonna start posting dumb shit on the internet that I did for a while ago, she won't see it till she gets back.
There you go.
All right, well, Megan, I'm gonna let you go here. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
And that was it. That was the first, I feel like, a real podcast that I had. We're going to have this. It'll be on, you see this on the YouTube channel, but I'll have it on iTunes and Spotify. And basically, if there's a podcast, just search the Scho-Zone and be on the lookout for Meghan Rose. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and good nights, or not goodbye, whatever the hell. I'm suck at endings. Nothing ends well. Otherwise, it wouldn't end. But this show has come to an end. Fuck.